Craig Tamworth. I believe in the early days there were negotiations to get Vader into TNA. Why did it not happen? And another point is apparently Vader left Japan's Pro Wrestling Noah promotion around this time under mysterious circumstances, but he claimed it was a knee injury. So do you remember ever trying to negotiate with Vader trying to get into TNA?
I heard about it. But when you hear something, when I was in TNA, when you hear something, it would do this. In one ear and out the other one. I put very little substance into what I would hear when I was in TNA. It may happen and it may not. So why even think about something if it hasn't happened? I'll start thinking about it when I know for sure whether the guy's coming or not. But I think Vader's asking price was a little too much for them, because I think Sting's asking price was like,
His was $500,000 a year.
$500,000 a show.
No. It would have been $500,000 a year.
No.
Sting. $500,000 a show?
No, not a show. It was it was 700,000 was what it was a year. That's what it was. And Kurt Angle got there, and I think he was trying to make as much money as Sting or more money.
I think he did. I think he was in $1 million a year or something, maybe.
But he did come in there over Sting, and I'm thinking, to get a job. Now think about this. You in real life, you got a job somewhere. You're a friggin' welder for a construction company. And you might be making $50 an hour or more. That sounds great.
Yeah, good wage.
Till you think about, here's this guy coming in who's ready to retire. And this was 10 years ago or more. It's like 15 years ago. And he's making $700,000 a year. How much is that a week? 15,000?
Yeah, something like that, I think, yeah.
$15,000 a week. And sometimes he's not even on TV. He just shows up and goes to catering and sits around. Well, it makes that little welder's job like, what the hell am I doing?
It's a nice work if you can get it.
It is. It is.
I know Vader came in like once in 2003 before
you know
you
why?
arrived.
But you know why Sting got that money? And he was a big star. I'm not saying that.
Because he asked for it, I guess. Because
Dixie was a fan. And, she wanted to pay him all this. And, she wanted to compete with WWE because her father is worth about $1 billion. Her dad. And he's a good guy. But I doubt if he wanted to spend most of his fortune on a wrestling promotion that had very little chance of succeeding. TNA could have done better had they really participated in knowing how to promote. They would go to a town and they would have no ads on TV, no ads in the paper, or maybe one little one, and no radio ads. And we'd go in there, some of these actually pretty big sized towns, and you'd draw like 300 people, 400 people. I'm going to send you a video. We were in some town in, I think, Idaho, and you think Idaho, who lives in Idaho? But they had this arena that seated 10,000. So they must have interest in something enough to draw 10,000 people. You got concerts coming through there. But you could sit back, and I'm going to show you this picture, or if I can find it. I saw it the other day. But you could literally sit back and count the people in the stands. And it was I don't know. They depended on whatever channel they were on. What channel were they on
Was
at
it
the start?
Spike?
It was
Well, well,
Spike.
originally when they were on like HD Net or something like that, or like some Fox affiliate, and then I think they went to
But
Spike.
we put it was on Spike, and some of the ratings on Spike was okay. I mean, it wasn't. Some of it was embarrassing. I remember our first show on Spike. It drew like 250,000 people. Oh my God! Dixie called a meeting, and it was like the Pope had been killed or something. It was like, we got to do better than this. We got to do better. It was our first show. And you gotta advertise it. That's what advertising is. That's why it was invented, to tell people that they can see wrestling, or they can see a show, or they can see a race, or they can see a football game. You got to tell them where it is and how to get tickets. But they thought that that TV station was going to take care of all that for them. It didn't work. Now, the next week it went up. We got it up one time to almost 2 million. But guess what we got out of it? We didn't even get a thank you. It was, they just went on like, well, it should be better than this. I'm thinking, well, I know you're paying me, but not that much. A thank you would be like, welcome. And you know what got it to, I don't know if it was 2 million, but it was, well, it was like 1,700,000, 1,700,000, or something like that. But guess what got it up there?
Awesome Kong.
Awesome Kong and Gail Kim.
Mm-hmm.
We put them in a main event, and they went the last 30 minutes of the show, and they spiked it up there. Then here's the rest of the story. I'm like Paul Harvey. Now here's the rest of the story. Gail Kim and Awesome Kong had the audacity, listen, to go in and ask Dixie for a raise.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it pissed her off. And she didn't give them a raise, so they said, well, we got to go. Yeah, I had built the whole thing around Kong, the whole thing. And I told her, I said, I want you to be Abdullah the Butcher of the girls. And she went out there and beat the crap out of them. And she was over.
Do you know any other ways that TNA or Dixie Carter would just throw money away? Because obviously they didn't advertise properly. Not about like the quality of the shows, or they didn't advertise the pay-per-views, or they didn't. I know there was some exceptions, like basically what you booked, Awesome Kong and Gail Kim, Kurt Angle and Samoa Joe, those things. That weirdly, when you booked it, pay-per-views and viewership went up. But were there any other creative ways that Dixie Carter would waste money?
Well, if I thought about it long enough, I tried not to think about her any more than I had to. I kind of liked Dixie, but you couldn't tell her. She thought she knew the wrestling business. So it wasn't my place to go in there and say, this is the way it really is, Dixie. What I wanted to tell her is, these guys know you got money. They know that. They can smell it. I said, I smelled it too, but till you put a clothespin on my nose, so I couldn't tell it anymore. So I worked for peanuts. So they go in there, and she would go online, I guess, and go to YouTube or wherever, and she'd think this guy's a big star and pay him what he was asking for. Of course, you ask for more money than you think you're going to get. Hell, she'd give them more money. So they loved her. So when you ask them to do something, oh, no. And some guys there that had worked in the WWF, WWE, when you gave them a finish, they ran it through two lenses, because they had plans to go back to WWE. So they didn't want to do nothing in a subpar promotion. And TNA was second or third let's say second doesn't exist. It was third without even somebody being second. It was third to WWF, and they wouldn't do anything that would make them like do it. They wouldn't get beat. Because you know who was watching that show?
Vince.
Vince. And if they call Vince back and want their job, he'd say, well, pal, I saw you with so-and-so Farmer John or whatever, and he beat you in about 10 minutes. What do you expect me? So they would look at it through two lenses, and I don't know. It was very difficult to survive there, to work there. So I just got out of the habit of trying to explain this. I'm not saying I'm even explaining it in the right way. I'm just saying I wouldn't go over there and say that. I just kind of went back into my shell and stayed in catering.
Right, we're going to move.
That's how I know their food's craps.
Yeah. We get a lot of people saying your career in catering and stuff like that now. I think the catering thing is becoming a meme within the show.
No, they started. I said that first, and then they're thieves. They're comedy thieves is what they are.
Right, we're going to move on.
I was the heavyweight champion of catering. I was that.